President Trump is calling on nations to help secure the vital shipping route in the Strait of Hormuz as launches continue across the region. While Israeli forces have begun what they call limited and targeted ground operations against Hezbollah strongholds inside Lebanon, CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata is following the latest from Tel Aviv.
The U.S. and Israel's bombing campaign across Iran shows no sign of slowing. Explosions across Lebanon, too, in Israel's other war against Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, with more than 850 killed. Yet Iran and Hezbollah launched one of their most intense rocket and missile strikes across Israel since fighting began. Despite claims by the Trump administration, the war has been won. Iran's foreign minister dismissed President Trump's statement that Iran wants a ceasefire deal on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan.
No, we never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes.
Iran has defied the bombardment, launching strikes on the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad. The Pentagon identified 6 crew members of a refueler that crashed after a mid-air collision over Iraq. Among them, 28-year-old Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons, a boom operator. The worst fears of his mother, Cheryl, realized.
They were lined up out on the porch, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Among the thousands more U.S. troops being sent to this region is a contingent of around 2,200 Marines and an amphibious assault ship, which may signal a new phase to the fight by giving more options to U.S. military commanders. Back to you.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much.
Now to the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that's crucial to moving oil tankers in and out of the Persian Gulf. Iran is blocking it, and President Trump wants other countries to help break that blockade. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab is close to the strait in the United Arab Emirates.
Good morning. Well, it's extraordinary to think that the calm waters behind me are the site of one of the world's most dangerous standoffs, with President Trump now calling on U.S. allies to send warships here to break what he calls Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, where roughly a fifth of the world's oil normally flows. And this is what some of those massive oil tankers are facing. Iranian state TV showing what appears to be a missile strike last week on a U.S.-owned ship. Now, the president says he's pressed around 7 countries to join a coalition to keep shipping moving through the waterway, and has also warned NATO countries that if they refuse, the consequences could be, and I'm quoting here, very bad for the alliance. Now, at the same time, Iran says it's not backing down, with Tehran continuing its risky strategy of trying to inflict as much economic pain on the Gulf and global oil markets in an attempt to end the war. Now, in its 3rd week, oil prices have surged to around $105 a barrel as the economic shocks continue to be felt far beyond the Middle East. Back to you.
All right, Imtiaz, thank you so much. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now. Nancy, the president, as you know, is urging allies to help try to reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz. How are they responding?
He's more like threatening them.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so far, he doesn't have many takers. In fact, the Germans are saying point blank, this is not their war. They weren't consulted before the war began, so they don't see why they should have to send ships now. The UK also saying that they're not going to be sending ships. The Japanese saying the same. So the president appeared to be a little frustrated talking to reporters last night, looking to share some of the political pain, military responsibility for the situation that is now worsening in the Strait of Hormuz. I asked the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt about the rationale for now insisting that other countries need to come in and help after, the U.S. and the Israelis were the ones who declared this war. Take a listen to what she had to say. Why should other countries that weren't consulted about this war, that aren't involved in this war, now put their troops in harm's way in the Strait of Hormuz?
Because these other countries are benefiting greatly from the United States military taking out the threat of Iran. The rogue Iranian regime has long not just posed a threat to the United States of America, but of course to our Gulf and Arab partners in the region. Their ballistic missile capability that the United States military is currently wiping out was a direct and imminent threat to our European allies as well as our bases in the region.
But the president just told the UK a few days ago that he doesn't need their ships. And now he says he does?
The president spoke on that last night. He said that he wished the UK had stepped up sooner and quicker, but he continues to speak with our allies in Europe and is calling on them to do more.
President Trump said last night that he is in conversation with 7 countries, including China, France, Japan, South Korea, and others, about helping to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. But so far, he hasn't indicated that any of them have said yes.
All right, Nancy, let me ask you about this. The president is set to host Kennedy Center board members today at the White House after a judge ruled a Democratic lawmaker on the board must be allowed to attend. So what do we know about that?
Well, we know that the president's very excited about this project, closing the Kennedy Center for about 2 years in order to do some pretty extensive renovations. He's going to formally announce today that Rick Grenell, who had been heading up the Kennedy Center, will be stepping away, and he's elevating someone who has more experience with renovations, because that is going to be the focus of the Kennedy Center over the next 2 years. They're shutting down, so there won't be any performances. And the president also, interestingly, announced that he's going to hold what he's calling a news conference, but really what it means is he's going to be taking questions from members of the press pool that's allowed in to come and cover the start of this Kennedy Center meeting here at the White House. So clearly the president is interested in taking questions, most notably about Iran and about the ongoing military and diplomatic situation there.
All right, we'll be watching for that. Nancy Cordes at the White House for us. Nancy, thank you, friend.